And we are good. Is it good evening? It is good evening, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good evening. Yes, in Boston.
And good evening in Boston. Well, I'm so pleased to talk with you today.
So bad.
And I love your book of poems, which we'll be talking about before birth. And I'll start by telling you what I love about them is I'm pretty immersed in AI and thinking about questions about what does it mean to be human. And I found what you presented a really refreshing reflection in this time when I'm wondering about these questions of what does it mean to be human. You really showcase this in a very compelling way.
So thank you.
And I'll start by sharing a line that I love, which is you said, "What I want is to be born in a time of change, when the old is leaving and the new has not yet come, in that hinged time, on the threshold where history hesitates before its next step." So I'd just love to know, like, do you feel we're in a hinged time? Do you feel you've been born in a time of change?
Every now and then there comes moment in history we feel that way. And I think since AI came along, we once again feel it because we don't know how what we say, what we do connects with the rest of the world. Human life is we connect with people. The way we connect with them, that shapes our families, societies, the village, the nation, the world. And in that sense, the way what's happening is we don't even know how we will begin to connect with each other. That's epochal. And in that sense, it's a hinge of time. Yes.
Yeah, and you write so beautifully about what does it mean to be human now? And I'm wondering if we can kind of start our conversation with that beautiful poem on page 22 of Why Human Then, if you would read that for us.
Oh, that'll be the first time I'm reading it. Okay, let's see.
On page
This
20.
is 22. Okay. Why human then? Yes. Because the human alone knows it will die and still, in the morning, makes tea. Knows it is alone and still has the nerve to love someone. Knows it is all meaningless and still writes poems and makes plans for tomorrow. And only human can do that, right? That's outside the point. And
I,
it began at 3 o'clock in the morning. Someday I was alone. And when you live alone a long time and start waking up early for some reason, you think it must be some reason you don't understand. And slowly, that's a time when you can do nothing. You're in a hotel room. You have spent 1,000 nights in hotel room. And all you know is everything is available to you by calling a phone number anytime, 24/7, but you don't need it. And from 3 to 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, it's time, it's entirely yours. It's full of void, it's full of every possibility. What do you do with it? Do you read? Do you think? Do you write? There's not something you can do at this stage in life. What do you do? And that's when I begin to ask the question I began asking in childhood. And the question is very simple: where do we come from? Who are we? What what is being human? And there's no answer to it. And we dismiss it as we grow up a little bit. Oh, he's talking about meaning of life. That's a very important question, and we dismiss it. It's a question to dismiss anything. Let's not talk about meaning of life. In other words, the most important questions, if you get stuck, then you keep doing nothing else. So, the complexity is very interesting. What's most important, and then, it never gets really addressed because it's so difficult to address that. And that's how it began. I began asking the things. I did not write it as a plan. I don't even think I'm a poet. It just happened in a way of some expression, and which I felt if you take a sentence in prose and you start talking in a communicative way, if you notice something, most people who are great communicators, when they speak, they do not use more than 3 words on an average at a time. three words, three words, three words, more or less. Maybe a couple, sometimes four, but three is an average. If you basically cut a sentence of 10 words into three sentences of three words and four, it will sound different. It will feel different. It stops you somewhere. Every word begins to have meaning. In a long sentence of prose, the whole prose, you understand it as a prose, the whole sentence. But when you cut it into three parts, each part speaks to you. And that's what began happening. And after about several days, there are nine cantos. I didn't know what the canto meaning was. By the way, I tried reading the greatest of us among poets was Tagore. I tried reading him. In English, the way I read was very difficult. And English was very difficult to read for me. But people loved it in English, and that's how he got the greatest award. And I did not understand Bangla well, so but I saw the lyrics there. I saw the beauty of it. The beauty was in Bangla. And then I've not read Rilke, who apparently his work is apparently the one of the greatest. The one began the question of consciousness before birth, and then there's Eliot. I did not know. I knew the Wasteland, Eliot of Wasteland, not the Fourth Quartet. But it seems in Fourth Quartet he addresses similar questions. So I was unaware of who was addressed, who was not. It wasn't starting with history. It was starting impromptu from 3 o'clock in the morning, filling the void for 4 or 5 hours that I got after spending thousands of nights like that in hotels. That's for the beginning.
And you said that these were questions that you revisited that you once maybe have asked in childhood and were asking again now. Did you notice changes in how you were approaching them from when you initially approached them in childhood to the way you were looking at the questions now?
You see, it begins with innocence. That's childhood. And then you grow and you know a little more. Then you ask a few more questions. And then you connect to the context that you're living in, that you become aware of. Maybe you often notice something is lying next to you. You don't notice it. Until you notice it, you don't notice it. It's lying in front of you. It happens to me almost every day. It's in front of me and I'm not noticing. I'm looking for it. I can't find it. And then you suddenly find it. So it's one of, understanding the world is a little less than simple. It's a little complicated. And we don't understand how we understand the world. So why is it that after so many decades, I begin to think about it again? I've heard of this question in Switzerland. I had a professor friend at ISS Hague. He will talk about this, but he was an Irishman, beautifully, but he'll talk in such a way with sense of humor, and not something which is to be discussed all the time. But that was a nice way to dismiss any further questions.
Mm.
I saw it that way too. I saw it in normal conversations. And in other words, we try to live smartly. We don't try to live meaningfully all the time. It'll be so boring, probably. Maybe it'll be interesting, but we don't quite know. So we all find different meanings in our present context, and we don't even go and find out why we're here. But that question intrigues you, and then you want to be like everyone else as well. So you're living multiple roles at every moment in some ways. And you never get a time to ask the basic questions, more fundamental questions, because there's no answer to it. There's no immediate answer. It doesn't get resolved ever. So what doesn't get resolved, nobody wants to take it, that challenge that easily. But it could only happen when you have so much time. And probably at this stage in life, I could do that. If I was at an earning stage in life, I could have done that. Maybe, maybe there is a time and place for everything. But it happened. It's not something I could have planned. It just flew in a way that I didn't know. And suddenly something happens. I begin to see it. And slowly I felt maybe it looks okay. And maybe it makes sense. And then AI helped me. Then I asked the AI, do you think it makes sense? They began saying, well, this question hasn't been asked by too many people. These are the people, look at them. I still haven't read Rilke. I still haven't read Four Quartet. I have memories of Tagore and Gitanjali as such. So that's where I am. So whatever I've done, even though there is a context to it, I have not lived that context. I'm not aware of that context, except at a very, very high superficial level that these things do exist, but I'm not aware of them the way I should be.
You wrote something that stuck out to me. You said, "But the bird does not have the power to know it is a bird."
Y- Yes, exactly. No other creature has the power to know who they are. They are, and they are. That's it.
Yeah, I know you're also a philanthropist and have done so much for so many. You wrote something that also stuck out with me, which says, "We humans have separated giving from being, and this is the source of our exhaustion." We've separated giving from being, and this is a source of
Yes.
exhaustion.
Yes. I would think of it. When we give, we we hear about, at least in the Boston context and India, as if you try to understand, at least the way I understand, we have stopped thinking originally. In Boston, I began hearing that, let's give back. I said, why are you giving back? Why don't you just do what is right? Why does it have to come with a sense of giving back? And then I began hearing about 20 years back in India as well, because the diaspora people became young and successful. They came back. They want to do something, and they gave the name giving back. You don't give back. You're just doing something what is right in a context. It took me to a time when I was 17, 18 in JNU, and I thought I said something which immediately someone else, no. If you don't feel great about it, don't do it. Don't do it for anyone else. Do it because you want to do it. Don't do it because I'm asking you to do it. Don't do it because of any other reason. If there's a gain in it, don't do it. If there's a loss in it, don't do it. Do it because you want to do it. Now, that's a huge thing. Do it not because of gain, not because of loss, because you want to do it. Now, there are some people think like that. Not everybody thought that way. So that's a different kind of thinking. So being and giving, if giving is my being, and if the two are same, then I'm not giving. I'm just being.
Hmm.
That's the point here. Right?
And you spoke a lot, or you wrote a lot about our desires and where they come from. And one of the things you wrote really stuck me, and I'll read it twice. It said, "This is birth's greatest secret. We arrive knowing everything, and we live by forgetting. Life is an attempt to remember what was forgotten, and death is its returning."
Yes. Think of it this way. Um, we Hindus believe in reincarnation, right? But does anyone know what life was before the life they took, or where will they go from there? And that question has kind of plagued them for a long time. And sometimes somebody comes and says, "I remember my previous life," and I said, "Well, probably they forget they remembered that nobody else remembers to be distinct. They decided to remember a particular constructed life which they lived." And I've met some people like this. They are godmen, they are mendicants. You meet them, they begin to live that life. They believe they know the past, they believe they know the future. Who can contradict them? So that also happens. So if you have reincarnation as a philosophy, you have to find justification for that. What is happening here is, if you don't forget, the whole edifice falls. If you can remember it, you can't, it doesn't work. So that's how it began coming together. And the words you find are the expression of that at that particular point in time.
So I know you're someone who's lived and worked all over the world, and you've also lived and worked with the word. And you wrote, "Because when everything is unsettled, only words give us a home." I'm wondering if that has been true for your life, that language is something that you come back to, because when everything is unsettled, only words give us a home.
Yeah, probably because no one else, whether you communicate with someone or communicate to yourself, I think what gives you hope is your ability to communicate to yourself. Others can, give you, in some ways, they can sympathize, they can give you empathy, they can make you feel less stressed or less grievous or whatever. But Ultimately, it is you who who has a dialogue with yourself, and that's where you begin to again use words without using words. You don't speak, but you're thinking in words because that's what you got to learn how to put, how to understand the world, how to describe the world, and words become us in some ways in that sense. So words help us, and our vocabulary, our simplicity, our complexity. Some people want to feel the complexity of words is the only beauty. Some people love the simplicity of that. Some people find words that communicate to everyone or more a nicer thing. Some people like to see how do I uh, become exclusionary instead of inclusive in that sense. How do I only communicate with those who can think like me? Some think of how to integrate with everyone. So there are various ways of, but then again, words connect us. There are many words don't communicate everything, but without words, communication becomes very difficult too. So, but you yourself talk to yourself in words. When I talk to you, I can see your body language. But can I see my own body language? So the communication with yourself is always in words. With someone else can be in many other ways too. So your own settlement with yourself is through words.
Mm. And you use language that anyone can appreciate because of the clarity and simplicity of how you have written this. Uh, uh, have have you found that people get it? Do do they appreciate the the depth that the simplicity conceals?
It's amazing. I thought my target always has been, I was an editor of a newspaper, actually two. My target used to be, can I say everything I want to say in 1,000 word vocabulary? Or 1,100 or 1,200, but around 1,000. I wrote this, and the India has a Sahitya Academy, which is like literary academy, which is created by the government. And one of the council members wrote to me on his own, doesn't know me. And then he called me and he said, the words are very simple, but the whole thing is so dense. I said, if the words are simple, why the whole thing should be dense? Because it makes you stop and think about things, and then you can't fathom it easily. So that's the time I realized I thought I was saying things very simply, but then someone who actually lives in the world of words comes and tells me words seem simple, but it was very dense. Now that's a challenge. Now probably it's not dense because words make it dense. It's dense because we have moved away from asking those questions, and it's like entering a foreign territory, an unknown territory in that sense. Probably that makes us dense.
Mm. Few more things I want to share that I really appreciated. I hear a lot in my social circles, people want to be seen. I want to be seen. And you have a line that kind of underscores that desire that I'll read now. You wrote, existence requires a witness. This is the oldest longing of the universe.
Yes. You see, for human, because there's greater awareness in terms of the way we connect with nature. If no one watches us, we feel as if there's no meaning to anything. We want to be known and accepted for what we are doing, and that's what gives meaning to what we do. And in that sense, if I want to hide to be found out, I need privacy so the world knows I seek privacy. Everything I do, it has a duality in that sense. I am and I'm not, but I can choose every time. And if you tell me I am, then I say I'm not. And that space has to be given to me to to feel meaningful, to feel I'm special. I have a space on the planet. I'm God's own, or whatever. Something that gives us. Uh, I will not go into the deeper question of psychology. I'm not an expert. I like to be just a common person. But the fact is that you hear of ego, you hear of what defines us, you hear of what gives everyone their own meaning, and you see the complexity of this all.
Um, we talked a little bit about, or you mentioned T.S. Eliot, who's one of my favorite poets. And he, of course, was writing in a period of the Great Wars when trying to make sense of all the fragmentation of languages and identities. And you wrote something that I thought was very much in that tradition. And you said, and it's a couple sentences, which I'll read. Every love is a memory of that first home, which we never saw, but which we know from somewhere deep. This is why the search for love is never complete, because the first home cannot be found again, but the searching keeps us alive.
Isn't it all? Isn't it? That's what keeps us going. I mean, every place that we leave leaves memory, and that memory becomes very precious. And the first one is always the most precious. How many songs have we written on the subject? And love is a feeling uh, on which a billion poems have been written, and a few billion more will be written. It'll never be understood still, because everyone, like someone said, I forget who said it, a poem read by 1,000 people is 1,000 poems.
Mm.
So the point is that love is a feeling which is expressed in so many ways. We all think we understand, and then we don't.
Mm. My favorite word in the entire uh, in the entire work is the word, and I'll read you the sentence from which it derives. It's the word sufficient.
Yes,
And you say, and now I am here in a darkness, a warm darkness, which is my mother's body, which is my mother's love, which is my first universe, so small and so sufficient.
that's right. So look, there is nothing for a child in that form more than mother. Mother is everything. Mother gives you sufficiency. If you have mother, there was a Hindi film, and people haven't forgotten the dialogue. I think Javed Akhtar's dialogue. So the hero of the film and his brother, they are on two different paths. One is a man of law, other is a man, he's an outlaw. So he said, I have this and that. And the other guy says, but I have mother. So
Mm.
that was a sentence which is not forgotten. It came from a film in Bombay film industry of Hindi. But that word, basically, mother is, come to think of it, the greatest shelter, greatest one. If you have mother as a child, you have everything. Father is a little far away. Father is like you. But mother is the one who gives the sense of protection. Father will protect you, but the sense of protection comes from mother.
Another thing you said about mother, which really struck me, was, and it's three sentences. Mother, at this moment, this word was born. Language became complete. All words before it were preparation. All the words after were explanation.
Exactly. The point is, you see, what is explanation? Things have already happened. You're trying to understand that. Explain to someone who doesn't understand that. But when you're living it, it's a, you're experiencing it in totality. But its expression will always be partial. Any experience lived in totality, when you explain it, it will be partial explanation. In that sense, mother, when I wrote in Maithili, for instance, it says, Ma tu paryapt cho. You are sufficient. That's how it came across.
Hmm.
And then when you begin to explain that to people, you are living part of that experience. Explanation is always partial. It's never complete. It's trying to communicate something. While the totality of existence is your bondage with mother, in that sense.
And this idea of complete versus incomplete, duality, fragmentation, I found as a theme throughout. And also this idea of being witnessed and the importance of how witnessing provides meaning for us. And I'll read what you write that exemplifies that. It says, stars burn, rivers run, mountains stand their whole long lives, but until some human being calls them beautiful, their beauty is only half itself.
Isn't it so? Because none of them really can understand how beautiful, how magnificent, how great they are. They can't. They are so because we see them as so human, and only human can describe it. No one else can. No other creature can. Only human has the power to appreciate it and can find words to it, communicate to each other, begin to talk about it. Others experience, feel, and that's the end of it. We feel and we share as well. We share in not just with one person, we can share with many. And that's why we bring to the initial question of AI. The way we feel and share at the same time. Earlier on, the feeling was shared over a period of time. It took a long time. It required construction of that feeling. Today, it's instantaneous, almost. And we are still evolving that language, but it constantly keeps evolving all the time. As of today, ability to communicate almost in real time what you're doing to millions has emerged as one of the, you can say, human capabilities, if not the strengths. And that's where this whole idea of uh, whether you're human or any other part of nature, you, unless you have someone witnessing it, it doesn't get a meaning. The meaning is derived from that witness.
Mhm. Mm, I found that throughout what you wrote, it's almost like there's a fragrance of nostalgia that just hit me in my gut, from solitude and longing. It was so beautiful, and I'll read a sentence, and if you read it too quickly, you won't get it. But it says, "I could have been a tree standing in one place for centuries, giving shade even to those who will cut me, bearing fruit for those who will forget me. How generous, how mute. Bearing fruit for those who will forget me."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Look, in some ways, many of us do that. Many of us do that. And then we feel, we respond to that. Sometimes we don't like it. Sometimes dismiss it. Sometimes we become magnanimous about it. So our responses change depending on our evolution. Many things I say today, maybe 10 years back, they had different meaning to me. 50 years back, they meant something very different to me. Today, given the way life has progressed, where I stand, everything has a different meaning, changed meaning, new meaning. So if you see, I've been through those stages that you did something and people took it and they forgot totally. And not that you want them to remember it, but the fact that they took it as a right and then they totally forgot it. That's very interesting to watch. Obviously, when I say that, people think I'm not very worldly, I'm not very practical, right? Because the practical person, when they lend you $5, they want to come back and take it from you. I've never done that. I've never gone back to pick up something somebody took from me. But they plain simple forgot because now they feel if they see me, probably I'll ask for it. And this is human. Yeah.
Mhm. So the last passage I'll read is, I know you do so much work in education, in India and elsewhere, and I thought of this as kind of highlighting some of that work, perhaps. Maybe you could speak to that if it resonates with you, which says, "But the place of birth is not where you stand. It is where your first memory is. And the first memory is always a mother's arm. Every child is born in the same place."
Exactly. I mean, when a child is born, doesn't know which country it is, does the child know that? No. Or which village, which family, who knows? So in that sense, that's why even the country has to be given a name called motherland. We can't even understand our country without bringing mother to it, right? Of course, one culture talked for fatherland, and it will be interesting to know why, and probably Rilke could explain that. But like you may have seen this, I said a consciousness, a child is choosing a father, but father chooses the mother. You can't choose mother. You can choose father, but not mother. And you have to understand that. I didn't elaborate that because this poem is not a matter of thought and reasoning. This is how it emerged. It's my first work, and I did not know if I will be a poet. Of course, I dealt with words long enough, but I dealt with them in the realm of policies and pain and sufferings and how what we do helps people or doesn't help people. I did not see them from feelings point of view. I saw the physical grief, not the grief of the inside. That's a poet's job. So I was a prose person, and from there to get to this place was entirely not by choice, not by reasoning, not by plan. It just happened. And I think poetry happens, prose is deliberate.
So I have one final question for you, then I'll stop our recording, which is, here's the book. Do you have a wish for your reader?
I think if they can relate to the book, that's the greatest, kind of satisfaction, that what I felt was not just my feeling alone. And what more can anyone ask for? But my feelings were shared feelings. I'm not alone. And when you're alone, then you have to really find much greater reason to justify or understand that. So if it is a common feeling, then I think that's the way uh, it will find its own universal meaning to it. Yeah.
And I'll end on this, which is, I like how kind of your wish for the reader parallels what we've been talking about, is the idea of being witnessed and being, thus finding meaning in being witnessed as well. So it was such a pleasure talking with you, and your work is gorgeous. So thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. And thank you for bringing me to this point of conversation. This is the first conversation on this book I've had. Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
And